title on this property is very, very confusing. There are mechanics liens, there was pendant, there's all sorts of stuff going on. It's a very complicated title. Okay? Now, if you're saying to us, the developer or their attorney, that we're going to sell 500 different units in this building, and I got to deal with 500 different title companies, and I got to explain all this to them all over again, and each one is going to object to different things, and each is going to ask for different documentation from me, you're making a lot of extra work for us. So we're not trying to penalize anybody for using the title company they want, but we're saying, look, if you use our company, we've already been through this, we've been through it a million times, it'll take 5 minutes and we'll be done. If you use another company, we might spend hours and hours and days and weeks trying to resolve these issues and explaining to your title company and battling with them to explain what's going on. So if you choose a company other than the one in the plan, you got to pay us an additional fee. That was the argument that these attorneys made. Did not carry the day, was not a winning argument. Again, I'm not saying it was a correct argument. I'm not saying it was right. It does seem to me to be anti-consumer to tell somebody you got to use this company, and if you don't, you have to pay somebody a couple $100 or $500 or $600. So that language is no longer allowed. And if you see that, and if somebody tries to force you to use a title company that's in the plan, you shouldn't do it. I'm not saying you shouldn't use the title company in the plan. That's completely up to you. You might feel it's easier to use the title company in the plan. You might find that it's less work and it's more convenient, and you feel more comfortable at the end of the day. That's absolutely fine. But you shouldn't feel that you have to do it because you're saving your client $500 or $600 or $700. And if anybody tries to collect that money from you, you simply tell them that it's illegal. If you'd like a PDF of the insurance department ruling from January of 2005, shoot me an email again, mark@markusual.com, and I'll be happy to get it for you, and you could pull that out and show that to them. So again, not only is the bulk rate discount not connected to the title company that did the underlying search on the property, you also cannot force somebody to use a particular title company at the penalty of having to pay an additional legal fee. So those are the statutory discounts, and I want to make sure that everybody understands them before I move on to the next subject. Next thing I want to cover is co-op apartments. I've been talking now for an hour and change, maybe pushing on an hour and 3/4 on a lot of things related to real property, and I said it up front. I said up front why title insurance is applicable to real property, a house, a condominium, farmland, vacant land, manufacturing property, commercial property, but not to co-ops. Just going to spend a little bit more time talking about co-ops now. Certainly, in many suburbs, there's tons and tons of co-ops. In many cities, there's tons of co-ops. When you get down into the 5 boroughs of New York City, co-ops are everywhere. It's the dominant form of home ownership in the 5 boroughs of New York City, or at least in some of the boroughs of New York City. There are a lot of co-ops. Co-ops are not real property. Co-ops, and since they're not real property, there's no title to them. There's no deed. When you buy a co-op apartment, you don't get a deed to that particular apartment. Instead, you get shares of stock in a co-op corporation and a proprietary lease that goes along with it that allows you to occupy a particular apartment pursuant to the proprietary lease between you and the co-op board. For that reason, there is no such thing as title insurance for co-op apartments. There is no title, there is no deed. It's personalty. It's personal property. The shares of stock are personal property as opposed to real property, which is what a deed is. So for that reason, no title insurance. Instead, when somebody buys a co-op apartment, they do a much more simple search called a judgment